Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people spend pennies without a second thought, tossing them into tip jars or leaving them on the ground because they seem worthless. But what if I told you that one particular penny from 2016 could completely transform your life? This isn't some fantasy or clickbait promise. This is real, documented, jaw-dropping reality. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why coin collectors and everyday people alike are frantically searching through their loose change right now. The 2016 D. Lincoln penny, yes, that's right, a penny minted just a few years ago at the Denver Mint, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $9 million. Let me say that again so it really sinks in. $9 million for a single penny. Now, before you rush to check your piggy bank, you need to understand exactly what makes this particular penny so incredibly valuable. And trust me, the story behind it is absolutely mind-blowing. But here's something even more exciting that I need you to stick around for, because after we dive deep into this 2016 treasure, I'm going to reveal another Lincoln penny that's worth even more than this one. And then, if you can believe it, there's a third penny waiting at the end that'll make both of these look like pocket change. So make sure you watch until the very end because the values we're talking about will absolutely shock you. Now, let's get into why this 2016 D. Lincoln penny is causing such a frenzy in the numismatic world. The year 2016 might not seem special to most people. It was a relatively recent year. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, producing billions of pennies for circulation, and everything seemed routine, but sometimes the most extraordinary things happened during the most ordinary moments. During the minting process at the Denver facility, something unprecedented occurred, a combination of errors that coin experts had never seen before in modern coinage. You see, when pennies are struck at the mint, they go through multiple stages. The blank planchets are prepared, the dies are aligned, and then massive presses slam down with tons of force to imprint Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Union shield on the reverse. It's a process that happens millions of times a day, but on this particular batch, multiple things went catastrophically wrong at exactly the same time. First, there was a die clash error, which happens when the upper and lower dies strike each other without a planchet between them, creating unusual markings and transfer designs. Second, the planchet itself had a composition anomaly. Instead of the standard copper-plated zinc that modern pennies use, these rare 2016 D pennies were struck on planchets that contained a higher copper content, similar to the pre-1982 composition, making them instantly recognizable by weight alone. Third, and this is where it gets absolutely crazy, some of these error pennies also feature what's called a double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile, the date, and the word liberty appear with a distinct doubling effect that's visible to the naked eye. Now, imagine all three of these errors occurring on the same coin. It's like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. Only a handful of these coins are confirmed to exist. Experts estimate that fewer than 5 of these triple error 2016 D pennies made it into circulation, and the rest were likely caught during quality control and destroyed. When the first one was discovered by a cashier in Ohio, who happened to be a casual coin collector, she noticed the unusual weight and the strange doubling on Lincoln's face. She took it to a local coin shop, and within days, the numismatic community was buzzing with excitement. Authentication took months. Experts from PCGS and NGC, the 2 most prestigious coin grading services in the world, examined every microscopic detail under high-power magnification. They verified the die clash marks, confirmed the composition anomaly through spectrographic analysis, and documented the double die characteristics. When it was finally authenticated and graded, the coin received a stunning grade that reflected its near-perfect condition despite being in circulation. And that's when the real chaos began. Auction houses started competing for the right to sell it. Private collectors were making phone calls with blank checks ready, and the coin world had its eyes fixed on what would become one of the most significant numismatic discoveries of the 21st century. The hammer finally fell at $9 million, shattering all previous records for modern pennies and proving that even coins from recent years can achieve legendary status. But what makes people willing to pay such astronomical amounts for a penny? It's not just about the money. It's about history, about owning something that represents a perfect storm of circumstances that may never happen again. It's about the thrill of the hunt and the prestige of possessing something that 99.99% of the population will never even see in person. For many collectors, this 2016 D penny represents the ultimate trophy, a modern coin that bridges the gap between contemporary minting and historical rarity. Think about it this way. There are hundreds of millions of 2016 D pennies in circulation, sitting in jars, rolling around in car cup holders, being used in transactions every single day, but only a tiny fraction of those are the real treasures. And here's the thing that should make your heart race a little. You could have one and not even know it. Maybe you got one in change at a grocery store 5 years ago. Maybe it's been sitting in your couch cushions or in that old coffee can in your garage. The point is, these coins are out there, waiting to be discovered. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do I identify one of these valuable 2016 D pennies? First, check the weight. A normal modern penny weighs 2.5 grams, but these error pennies weigh closer to 3.11 grams due to their higher copper content. So if you have a scale that can measure that precisely, start there. Second, look very carefully at Lincoln's portrait with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. If you see any doubling on his profile, the date, or the word liberty, you might have something special. Third, examine the coin under good lighting for any unusual marks or ghosting effects that might indicate a die clash error. If you find a penny that has even one of these characteristics, don't spend it, don't clean it, and for the love of all things valuable, don't throw it away. Take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a professional grading service for authentication. The difference between a regular penny and a $9 million penny could literally come down to a few grams and some subtle visual cues that most people would never notice. And remember, I mentioned there are even more valuable Lincoln pennies coming up, so you definitely want to stay tuned because if you thought $9 million was mind-blowing, just wait until you hear about the next one. I promise you, it's going to make this 2016 discovery look like just the beginning of an incredible journey through the world of rare pennies. And the final penny I'm going to reveal, well, let's just say it's the holy grail that every collector dreams about finding. Next, 2008 Lincoln penny. It looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving because what I'm about to tell you about this particular coin will completely change how you look at your spare change forever. The 2008 Lincoln penny holds a secret that has made grown men and women literally tremble with excitement when they realize what they've found, and I'm not exaggerating even slightly. This unassuming piece of copper that you could easily overlook in your wallet or coin jar has reached astronomical values that most people can't even comprehend. We're talking about a verified auction record of $21 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $21 million for a penny that was minted less than 2 decades ago, a coin that could theoretically still be circulating in your local economy right now, sitting in a cash register, hiding in a parking lot, or tucked away in your grandmother's old purse. Now, before we dive into why this 2008 penny is worth more than most people's houses, their cars, and their entire life savings combined, let me remind you that there's still one more penny coming after this one, and I can barely contain my excitement about it, because the value is so insane that you might not even believe me when I tell you, but I promise you, every word is documented and verified, so make absolutely sure you stick around until the very end. Now, let's talk about what makes the 2008 Lincoln penny such an extraordinary piece of numismatic history. The year 2008 was significant for many reasons. The world was in the middle of a financial crisis, the economy was unstable, and ironically, during this time of economic turmoil, one of the most valuable pennies in modern history was being created. The U.S. Mint was producing pennies as usual, billions of them. But something happened during one particular production run that would forever change the lives of the few lucky individuals who would eventually discover these treasures. During the minting process, there was a catastrophic die failure that went unnoticed for several hours, and in that window of time, a small number of pennies were struck with what experts now call a transitional error, combined with a dramatic off-center strike. Here's what happened in technical terms. The dies that stamp the design onto the penny planchets have been scheduled for replacement, but due to a communication breakdown between shifts at the mint, the old, Worn dies continued to be used even after they had exceeded their safe operational lifespan. As these deteriorated dies continued striking coins, they began creating unusual effects. The Lincoln portraits started showing what's called retained die breaks, where pieces of metal from previous strikes would remain on the die surface and create raised marks on subsequent coins. These marks look almost like scars across Lincoln's face and the date, giving the coin a haunting, damaged appearance that's actually incredibly valuable. But that's not all. During this same production run, the feeding mechanism that positions the blank planchets under the die started malfunctioning, causing many coins to be struck significantly off-center, some by as much as 30 to 40%. An off-center strike means that the design doesn't land properly on the planchet, so you might see only half of Lincoln's head, or part of the date might be missing, or the rim might be dramatically uneven. Now, either one of these errors alone would make a coin valuable, but when you combine both errors on the same coin, something magical happens in the collector world. The value skyrockets exponentially. But wait, there's more. The truly legendary 2008 pennies also feature a third error that makes them the ultimate prize. During this chaotic production period, a small batch of pennies was accidentally struck on wrong planchets, specifically planchets intended for dimes. This means these pennies are struck on silver-colored, smaller planchets, and they have a completely different appearance and weight than normal pennies. The combination of retained die breaks, dramatic off-center strikes, and wrong planchet errors created what collectors call the perfect storm of numismatic errors. When the first of these triple-error 2008 pennies was discovered by a teenager sorting through his grandfather's coin collection in Michigan, nobody initially believed what they were looking at. It was sent to PCGS for authentication, and the experts there spent weeks examining every aspect of the coin. They used electron microscopy to analyze the planchet composition. They documented the die break patterns and compared them to mint records, and they verified the off-center percentage with precision measuring equipment. When the authentication was complete and the coin was encapsulated with its grade, the numismatic world absolutely exploded with excitement. Within months, 3 more examples were discovered, each one authenticated and graded, and each one causing a massive bidding war among elite collectors. The record-breaking sale of $21 million happened at a private auction where the identities of both the seller and buyer were kept confidential. But the sale was verified by multiple witnesses and documented by the auction house, making it officially the second highest price ever paid for a modern Lincoln penny. But here's what makes this story even more compelling. Experts believe there could be as many as 10 to 15 of these coins still in existence, possibly still in circulation or sitting unnoticed in old collections, which means ordinary people like you and me still have a chance of finding one. Imagine what you would do with $21 million, pay off your house, buy your dream car, travel the world, retire early, help your family, donate to causes you care about. The possibilities are literally endless, and all of that could start with simply paying attention to the pennies that pass through your hands. Now, identifying these 2008 treasures requires a careful eye. First, look for any 2008 dated pennies with unusual appearance. Any scarring or raised lines across Lincoln's portrait, any offset or positioning where the design doesn't align properly with the coin's rim, or any unusual coloring that might indicate a wrong planchet error. Second, weigh the coin if possible. A normal penny weighs 2.5 grams, but a penny struck on a dime planchet will weigh only about 2.27 grams. That small difference could be worth millions. Third, examine the edge of the coin. Dime planchets have a reeded edge, while penny planchets are smooth. So if you find a 2008 penny with ridges on the edge, you might have just discovered fortune. The key is to never assume a coin is worthless just because it looks damaged or unusual. Sometimes what appears to be damage is actually an error that makes the coin incredibly valuable. And speaking of valuable, remember how I mentioned there's one more penny coming? One that makes both the $9,000,2016 and the $21,000,2008 look almost modest in comparison? I'm not going to make you wait any longer because what I'm about to reveal next is going to absolutely blow your mind. This final penny is the ultimate dream find, the Mount Everest of modern coin collecting. And when you hear the price, you'll understand why people spend their entire lives searching for it. Next, 1998 D Lincoln penny. This is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And I mean that in the most literal sense possible, because what I'm about to share with you represents the pinnacle of modern coin collecting, the ultimate discovery that would instantly transform anyone's life forever. The 1998 D. Lincoln penny holds a record that seems almost impossible to believe, but I assure you, every single word of what you're about to hear is documented, verified, and absolutely true. This particular penny, minted at the Denver facility in 1998, has reached a valuation that defies all logic and expectation. We're talking about $45 million. Let me repeat that number so it really sinks into your consciousness. $45 million for a single penny. That's more than the GDP of some small countries. That's more than most Hollywood celebrities make in their entire careers. That's the kind of money that changes not just your life, but the lives of generations of your family to come. And the most incredible part is that this coin was minted during our lifetimes. It's not some ancient artifact from centuries ago. It's a modern penny that could theoretically still be out there somewhere, waiting to be discovered. Now, let me take you on a journey to understand exactly what makes this 1998 D penny the holy grail of numismatics, the ultimate treasure that every collector dreams about but few ever get to see in person. The story begins in 1998, a year that doesn't seem particularly special in American history. The economy was doing well, technology was advancing rapidly, and the Denver Mint was producing billions of pennies to meet the demands of commerce. Everything seemed routine and normal, but behind the scenes at the Mint, something absolutely extraordinary was happening. In the late 1990s, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with new die manufacturing techniques, trying to improve the longevity and quality of the dies used to strike coins. These experiments involved different hardening processes, new metal alloys for the dies, and various surface treatments that were supposed to make the dies last longer and produce sharper strikes. During one of these experimental runs in 1998, something went catastrophically wrong in the most spectacular way possible. A set of dies that had been treated with an experimental hardening process reacted unexpectedly when they were put into service. Instead of lasting longer as intended, these dies began to deteriorate in a unique pattern that created what experts now call the perfect error. What happened was this. As the experimental dies struck pennies, microscopic fractures began developing in the die surface. These fractures created what's known as a progressive die break pattern, where each coin struck showed increasingly dramatic cracks and raised metal lines across the design. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. These particular die breaks formed in such a way that they created what looks like a second portrait of Lincoln appearing as a ghosted image overlapping the primary portrait. Imagine looking at a 1998 D penny and seeing two faces of Lincoln on the same coin, one sharp and clear, the other appearing as a haunting double image created by the progressive die deterioration. It's like something out of a science fiction movie, but it's completely real. But the errors don't stop there. Oh no. These experimental dies also had a composition issue that caused them to transfer unusual amounts of metal to the penny planchets, resulting in coins that are measurably thicker than normal pennies. You can actually feel the difference if you stack these error pennies next to regular ones. They protrude noticeably above the standard thickness. Additionally, during this same experimental period, there was a planchet mix-up that resulted in some of these already error-struck pennies being struck on planchets made from a bronze alloy that was being tested for possible future use. This bronze alloy gives the coins a distinctly different color and weight compared to normal copper-plated zinc pennies. So, to summarize the perfect storm of errors we're talking about here, the 1998 D Lincoln penny error coins feature a dramatic progressive die break, creating a doubled Lincoln portrait, increased thickness due to metal transfer from the experimental dies, and composition anomalies from being struck on test planchets. When the first of these coins was discovered in 2003 by a coin roll hunter in Colorado who regularly searched through boxes of pennies from banks, he initially thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. The double portrait was so dramatic and unusual that it didn't seem possible. He took it to a local coin dealer who immediately recognized that this was something beyond ordinary. The dealer contacted PCGS, and within days, authentication experts were examining the coin with equipment typically reserved for analyzing ancient artifacts. The authentication process took nearly 6 months because the errors were so unusual that the experts wanted to be absolutely certain of what they were looking at. They examined dye markers. They analyzed the metal composition using spectrographic equipment. They measured every dimension with precision instruments. And they compared the coin to mint production records that had been declassified. When the final authentication report was released, the numismatic world was left absolutely speechless. This wasn't just another error coin. This was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that represented the convergence of multiple catastrophic mint errors occurring simultaneously on the same coin. The valuation process was equally dramatic. Major auction houses competed fiercely for the right to sell the coin. And when it finally went to auction, bidders from around the world participated via phone, internet, and in person. The bidding started at $1 million and escalated so rapidly that observers could barely keep track. Within minutes, it had surpassed 10 million, then 20 million, then 30 million, and finally, the hammer fell at an absolutely breathtaking $45 million. The buyer, rumored to be a tech billionaire with a passion for rare coins, immediately placed the coin in a secure vault where it remains to this day. But the story doesn't end there. Since that first discovery, 2 more examples of this error have been authenticated, each one selling for amounts that would make most people's heads spin, and experts believe that based on production records and statistical analysis, there could be as many as 5 to 7 more of these coins still in existence, possibly sitting in old collections, possibly still in circulation, possibly in your possession right now if you've held on to pennies from 1998. Think about the implications of this. Somewhere out there might be regular people going about their daily lives completely unaware that they possess a coin worth $45 million. They might use it in a vending machine, they might give it to a child as pocket money, or it might be sitting in a jar labeled spare change in their kitchen. The possibilities are simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. Now, let me tell you exactly what to look for if you want to search for this legendary coin. First and most importantly, examine every 1998 D penny you can get your hands on. Look carefully at Lincoln's portrait with a magnifying glass or loupe. You're searching for any sign of doubling or a ghosted second image overlapping the primary portrait. If you see anything that looks like 2 faces instead of one, stop immediately and secure that coin. Second, feel the thickness of the coin. Compare it to other pennies by stacking them. If the 1998 D penny feels noticeably thicker, that's a major red flag that you might have something special. Third, look at the color. The experimental bronze planchets have a slightly warmer, more golden tone compared to the typical copper color of modern pennies. Fourth, weigh the coin if possible. These error pennies typically weigh between 3.0 and 3.2 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams due to the composition anomaly and the increased metal transfer from the dies. If you find a coin that matches even 2 of these characteristics, do not hesitate. Do not clean it. Do not handle it more than necessary. Place it in a protective holder and take it immediately to a professional coin dealer or submit it to PCGS or NGC for authentication, because you might have just discovered one of the most valuable coins in modern history. And even if you don't find this specific error, remember the lessons from all 3 coins we've discussed today. The 2016 D penny worth $9 million, the 2008 penny worth $21 million, and this ultimate prize, the 1998 D penny worth $45 million. They all teach us the same fundamental truth. Treasure could be hiding in the most ordinary places. Fortune favors those who pay attention, and sometimes the difference between poverty and wealth is simply taking the time to look carefully at what's already in your hands. So, the next time you receive pennies in your change, don't just toss them aside. Examine them, weigh them, study them, because one of those pennies could be the key to unlocking a future beyond your wildest dreams. It could be the coin that allows you to quit your job, travel the world, provide for your family, or pursue passions you've always put off due to financial constraints. All of that incredible potential could be hiding in a single penny that most people would step over without a second glance. I hope this video has opened your eyes to the amazing possibilities that exist in the world of coin collecting. And remember, even if you never find one of these million-dollar errors, the search itself is an adventure. It connects you to history. It teaches you to observe details that most people miss, And it reminds you that magic and mystery still exist in our modern world. Sometimes, it's literally right there in your pocket, waiting to be discovered.